Before we get to the story, take a second to give this video a like and subscribe. Your contribution to the development of the channel is invaluable. Thank you. I was putting the finishing touches on the final installation, each piece carefully arranged to reveal its raw textures and expressive shapes, when the sudden glare of headlights interrupted the late afternoon calm. Outside the gallery's large front window, the beams of a familiar car sliced through the gathering dusk, an uninvited reminder of a past I'd long tried to forget. My hands trembled slightly as I set down the brushes and tubes of paint, the quiet clatter echoing in the spacious modern interior of my art gallery on the outskirts of New Orleans. I hadn't expected anyone tonight, least of all Dylan. Once a shadow in the periphery of my memories, a reticent, almost ghostly figure from a past I thought was safely sealed away. He now stood at my doorstep. His silhouette was unmistakable, yet it carried an air of hard-won confidence and a chill that sent a ripple of apprehension through me. As I took a cautious step toward the entrance, my pulse raced, punctuating the otherwise serene environment of my curated sanctuary. "Emily, it's been so long," he said softly. His voice measured and cool, betraying little of the uncertainties that had once tethered him to our shared history. The sound of his greeting seemed to linger in the space between us, heavy with unspoken memories and the weight of a long-forgotten intimacy. For a moment, I hesitated, my mind reeling from the sudden collision of past and present. His unexpected arrival had upended the meticulous calm I had built around my life and art. With each measured step he took into the gallery, I felt the ambience shift. There was an undeniable tension, a subtle magnetic pull that suggested nothing here was as it once was. My heart pounded with a conflicting mixture of longing and wariness, as if I sensed that this reunion was the precursor to inevitable change. Determined to remain in control of the situation, I cleared my throat and broke the silence. "Come in," I said, forcing my voice to sound composed. "Let me show you around." As we walked slowly through the luminous halls adorned with installations that captured the vibrant chaos of modern life, I couldn't help but notice every nuanced detail of Dylan's transformation. His once tentative demeanor had been replaced by a crisp, almost steely resolve. There was no trace of the nervous vulnerability he once wore like a second skin. Instead, he moved with an assured grace, his quiet gaze absorbing every new corner of the space, every shadow and color as if cataloging memories. I led him deeper into the gallery, acutely aware of the shifting dynamics that his presence evoked. Every step echoed with the promise of revelations yet to come, and every glance exchanged between us carried the weight of hidden pasts and uncertain futures. In that charged atmosphere, filled with the raw passion of art and the unspoken drama of familiar souls rediscovering each other, I sensed that tonight was not just a reunion, it was the harbinger of profound transformation. After Dylan's unexpected entrance, I found my mind drifting to quieter moments within the vast, secluded garden of the art center. A hidden pocket of nature juxtaposed against the wild energy of modern urban life. In the solitude of that green retreat, every rustle of leaves seemed to evoke fragments of our shared history. I recalled a time when Dylan was nothing more than a timid college student, an introspective dreamer whose emotions were so delicate they could scarcely be captured in words. Back then, his presence was a whisper in a crowded room, easily drowned out by the noise of everyday life, yet his unspoken thoughts resonated with a quiet intensity that I hadn't fully understood then. Sitting on a weathered bench beneath the boughs of an ancient oak, I pulled out my notebook, its pages a chronicle of secret hopes and scattered memories. With every careful scribble, I relived the moments when Dylan's shy smile and thoughtful glances had hinted at a world yet unspoken between us. The ink blurred as my recollections mingled with the present, the soft chirping of crickets, the distant hum of conversation from the gallery's small reception area. I could feel the weight of the past intertwining with the current atmosphere, a tapestry of emotions woven from time and change. Later that evening, back inside the gallery, I attended a modest reception where old friends gathered to share memories and marvel at the transformed space. The chatter was light until Dylan, now a man transformed by experience, slipped seamlessly into the conversation. His anecdotes, recounted in a voice both warm and edged with a newfound candor, painted vivid pictures of our early days. He recalled, with a hint of irony and gentle humor, the nervous laughter and awkward silences of our student years, a time when every glance was loaded with unsaid affection and every conversation bristled with the possibility of something more. His stories were laced with an unexpected confidence, and as I listened, I felt my long-standing perceptions shifting. Each tale he told was a revelation of his evolution. Gone was the reticent boy I remembered. In his place was someone who had embraced life's harsh lessons and emerged with a quiet, yet undeniable self-assuredness. With every word, the distance between our past and present diminished, replaced by a tentative anticipation of what could be. A mixture of nostalgia and excitement surged within me, stirring thoughts of reawakening old passions and daring to believe in fresh beginnings. In that moment, as I observed Dylan's animated expressions and measured pauses between memories, I realized that the man before me was a living testament to time's transformative power. The shadows of our shared past mingled with new expectations, each story an exchanged smile hinting at the potential for something deeper. As the evening wore on, I couldn't help but wonder if perhaps the person I once knew was only a precursor to the one I was now rediscovering. A man who, despite the inevitable changes wrought by life, still held the promise of that long-forgotten unspoken magic. The soft hum of a live jazz band guided us into the gentle darkness of a secluded wine bar tucked into the heart of the French Quarter. The venue exuded a timeless allure, a haven where the muted clink of glasses and the delicate murmur of whispered confidences blended seamlessly with the soulful notes of a saxophone. Dylan and I found ourselves seated at a small, intimate table draped with a crisp white cloth, far enough from the crowd that our conversation could unfold naturally, unhindered by the surrounding bustle. At first, our dialogue danced around memories of simpler days, light-hearted recollections that seemed to peel away the tension of our unexpected reunion. Yet, as the evening matured and our glasses filled with a rare velvety red, the conversation took on a weightier tone. Dylan's eyes, glimmering with both reminiscence and resignation, shifted in tone from reflective nostalgia to a quiet determination. "So, Emily," he began softly, leaning in as if to share a secret with both the night and me, "for a long time, I found solace in the routines of life. I clung to them, believing they were enough to hold me together." His voice wavered between dry humor and an undeniable sorrow, like a man who had traced the contours of his own vulnerabilities over years of quiet introspection. I listened, rapt as the jazz interlude wove a melancholy backdrop to his words. Our conversation deepened, gradually unfurling into a raw exploration of our present selves, complex beings marked by past regrets and nascent hopes. Dylan recounted how, for years, he'd sought to bury his uncertainties in the humdrum of everyday tasks, only to realize that routine was a double-edged sword. It masked the pain instead of healing it. His admission was punctuated by half-smiles and pauses, as if each breath carried the weight of unspoken confessions. "You know," he continued, his voice faltering for a moment, "I've been searching, not for something extravagant, but for that spark, that fleeting moment when I felt alive again." His eyes locked with mine, asking silently if I too felt that aching void between past comfort and present disquiet. The words struck a chord deep within me, stirring memories of my own battles with change and loss, of the longing to rediscover parts of myself that had been overshadowed by routine and expectations. Between the soulful strains of jazz and the intimate clatter of the bar, we navigated our truths, the delicate interplay of humor and melancholy that formed the fabric of who we had become. Our conversation veered unexpectedly into the realm of art and life, where every remark carried the potential of both healing and heartache. The emotional cadence of the night resonated with a quiet urgency, compelling me to confront not only the man before me, but also the latent desires and doubts that I had long kept hidden. In that dimly lit embrace of music, wine, and revelation, the barriers between us began to crumble. The night promised not only unexpected truths but also the possibility of transformation. A revelation that, in the interplay of shadows and light, every soul carries the seed of its own redemption. The crisp morning air carried a hint of promise as I stepped out of a quaint café near the gallery. I was savoring the quiet solitude that followed a long night of introspection when, almost as if scripted by fate itself, I nearly collided with a man strolling down the bustling street. His eyes, a deep captivating shade that seemed to see right through pretense, met mine with a knowing smile. This was Kyle, a charismatic figure whose effortless nonchalance belied the intensity hidden in his gaze. "Morning," he said with a lilt in his voice that was both teasing and sincere. There was an air of mischief in his smile, an invitation to embrace the unpredictability of life. His demeanor was relaxed, yet every movement exuded an underlying purpose. For a brief moment, time appeared to pause as the urban hum of New Orleans faded around us, leaving only the charged potential of a spontaneous encounter. We exchanged a few light words, small talk about the unpredictable weather and the city's unique rhythm, but it quickly became evident that Kyle's interest went deeper than mere pleasantries. He casually remarked, "Ever notice how life sometimes seems to make a crooked deal with you? Like it picks the moments you least expect and flips everything upside down." His comment resonated within me, a reflective echo of my own internal dialogues about betrayal, chance, and the harsh twists of fate. Before I could fully register his words, Kyle continued with a sparkle in his eyes. How about we escape this chaos for a bit? Join me for a morning run along the riverfront? It might give us a chance to sort out these crazy thoughts. There was no pressure in his tone, only an earnest invitation to step away from routine and delve into the raw, unscripted layers of our consciousness. Curiosity and a surprising sense of kinship nudged me to accept. As we set off together on the sun-dappled path by the river, the cityscape blurred into a harmonious mix of gentle motion and deliberate silence. With every stride, our conversation evolved organically. Kyle's reflections wove through topics as diverse as betrayal in our personal lives and the relentless selfishness that colors modern society. His observations were incisive and unguarded, each word painting a vivid picture of a man unafraid to face uncomfortable truths. Sometimes, he confessed, as the rhythmic sound of our footsteps blended with the distant murmur of the waking city, I can't help but think that every misstep, every moment of betrayal, is there to show us something we would have otherwise missed. It's like life's crude way of nudging us toward who we're meant to be. His statement was delivered with an unusual blend of cynicism and hope, a reminder that even the sting of regret could lead to unexpected clarity. As we jogged along the riverfront, the morning unfolded like a canvas of raw emotions and candid revelations. Our conversation, free from the constraints of pretense, invited both vulnerability and a refreshing honesty. Kyle's words struck deep, igniting sparks of realization within me that I had long neglected amid my carefully constructed world. In that spontaneous run, the city's pulse and our shared musings fused into a moment of transformative self-discovery. A step toward embracing the uncertainty that lay ahead, both in our lives and in the intertwined tapestry of our pasts. That evening, beneath the dramatic interplay of stage lights at the Urban Cultural Center, the art performance transformed the hall into a realm of poetic ambiguity and charged expectation. I moved through the crowd with a reluctance born of inner turmoil, my thoughts a tangled mess of memories and burgeoning impulses. The venue pulsed with an almost hypnotic energy as silhouettes merged with shifting shadows, a subtle hint from fate that nothing would remain unchanged. While I gravitated towards a quiet corner to catch fragmented whispers from the performance, I suddenly caught sight of Kyle amidst the abstract installations and scattered clusters of revelers. Our eyes met, his gaze burning with a rare intensity that instantly disarmed the carefully constructed reserve in me. There, in that charged moment of muted chaos and dazzling light, everything shifted. His presence was a call I had subconsciously longed for, a dangerous magnetism that threatened to upend the fragile balance of my well-guarded world. Without warning, as if the music itself had orchestrated this secret dance, Kyle approached. With a deliberate and urgent motion, he reached out, gently seizing my hand. Before I could register the implications of his touch, he pulled me away from the noise and the fleeting familiarity of friends. We found a secluded alcove where the ambient sound of the performance faded into an intimate silence. The air was thick with anticipation as the world around us blurred into insignificance. Emily, he murmured, his voice a low, trembling confession, I can't stand watching you remain hidden behind all these walls. There was an honesty in his words that seeped into my core. In the enveloping dimness, our surroundings seemed to hold their breath, as if aware that a profound transformation was unfolding. Then, with a hesitance that belied his determination, Kyle's lips met mine. The kiss, a mix of searing passion and bittersweet guilt, unleashed a torrent of emotions I had long suppressed. It felt as though every hidden desire and every forgotten fragment of my past collided in that single, unforgettable instant. The taste of his lips was both exhilarating and piercing, each caress fanning the flickering flames of a secret yearning I wasn't sure I could ever tame again. The intensity of the kiss overwhelmed me, eroding the edges of the person I had prided myself on being for so long, a woman of control, dedication, and finely balanced restraint. In that moment, every careful boundary crumbled, and I felt an unexpected transformation begin. The familiar comfort of my old self, the one who guarded my vulnerabilities and clung to familiar routines, was receding into a haze of memory. I understood then that this kiss wasn't merely a fleeting escape. It was a profound act of betrayal, a betrayal of Dylan, of the ideals we once nurtured together, and most of all of the woman I had believed myself to be. As the lights of the performance swirled overhead and the murmurs of the party resumed around us, I was forced to confront the irreversible fracture that had just been wrought in my life. In Kyle's embrace, passion intertwined with the sting of betrayal, a poignant reckoning that signaled the beginning of a tumultuous descent into a future where nothing, not even the clarity of my own identity, was guaranteed to remain intact. In the days that followed that shattering night, life took on an almost otherworldly cadence. a series of coincidences that hinted at secrets and unexpected turns just beneath the surface of ordinary routines. One crisp morning, as I sifted through the mail, an oddly wrapped package caught my attention. Inside lay a delicate brooch engraved with Kyle's initials, an intricate design that couldn't have been a mere accident. The gift felt like an enigma, an echo of a secret promise or perhaps a clue to motives I had yet to understand. Its discovery sent a tremor through my carefully structured world, sparking both curiosity and a subtle dread. Later that afternoon, while preparing my morning coffee in a quiet, countryside cottage I had rented to escape the city's relentless pace, I stumbled upon another mystery. Tucked away on the countertop was a hastily scribbled note, seemingly forgotten in the clutter, a cryptic message left behind in the art studio I frequented after hours. The ink was slightly smudged, as if written in a moment of desperate haste, and the words suggested a plan that linked back to Kyle. The juxtaposition of these seemingly random tokens gnawed at me. Each item was a silent messenger, weaving together fragments of a narrative that I had never anticipated. Every small discovery felt charged with meaning, as if the universe was conspiring to unravel a story hidden in plain sight. During one serene evening dinner at the gallery, as I and Dylan shared a quiet meal away from the prying eyes of curious onlookers, I noticed his reaction, a fleeting glance of tension, when one of these mysterious artifacts was inadvertently mentioned. His eyes darkened for just a moment, a silent testament to unspoken truths, before he smoothly steered the conversation back to mundane topics. But I wasn't fooled. Every raised eyebrow, every faltering smile hinted at complexities simmering beneath the surface. The subtle unraveling of my carefully curated life manifested in myriad ways. A misplaced invitation here, a familiar scent there. Each tiny detail collectively hinted at an intricate web of plans and feelings that neither Dylan nor I had fully admitted to ourselves. The unexpected items, accompanied by a feeling of deliberate orchestration, forced me to question not only my own motives but also the unseen machinations of those around me. Kyle's influence, whether a deliberate ploy or an accidental series of coincidences, gradually began to alter the very fabric of my existence. As days merged into nights with each obscure hint echoing in the silence, I found myself oscillating between feelings of betrayal and the thrill of discovery, aware that every small, enigmatic token was a piece of a larger puzzle that would soon force me to confront the truth about my shifting allegiances and the secret forces steering my destiny. That evening, the city lights shimmered against the backdrop of a high-rise restaurant, where a crowd of old friends gathered for an intimate rooftop dinner. The venue was a study in contrasts, elegant yet unpretentious, its decor a blend of modern chic and cozy familiarity. Amid the clinking of glasses and gentle hum of conversation, I slipped into a secluded corner table, mentally bracing myself for the storm of emotions that the night promised. Across from me sat my longtime friend Lauren, a woman known for her unapologetic candor and refined sense of style. Her eyes were alive with an honest glow that made even the darkest truths seem bearable. "Emily," she began, leaning in and speaking softly as if sharing a clandestine insight, "you seem distant tonight. Is it the weight of secrets, or did the night just get too heavy?" Her words, though light on the surface, carried an underlying urgency that stirred something deep within me. Before I could answer, Dylan, ever the unexpected catalyst, joined our table. His entrance was marked by a subtle shift in the atmosphere, as if the air itself hesitated before granting him entry. He greeted each of us with a respectful nod, though his eyes betrayed a flurry of unspoken thoughts. "Emily," Dylan said, his tone measured yet laced with a tension that resonated more strongly than his calm words, "I couldn't help but notice the way you've been holding back tonight. It's like you're wrestling with your own truths." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as his observation struck a chord. The conversation swiftly turned into a delicate dance of confessions and evasions. While Lauren shared an earnest recounting of her recent struggles with self-doubt and the relentless pressure to conform, I found my mind racing between the weight of my own hidden conflicts and the palpable presence of two men who had, in different ways, fractured the security of my once familiar world. Between bites of beautifully plated food and sips of wine that blurred the lines between reality and introspection, our dialogue oscillated between moments of biting honesty and cleverly veiled hypocrisy. Lauren's unfiltered admission, about the sacrifices she had made for outward perfection, suddenly made me confront my own inner duplicity. "Sometimes," I murmured uncertainly, "I wonder if I've been living two separate lives, the one everyone sees and the one that stifles my soul." Dylan's response was measured, his eyes not unkind yet unforgiving. "We all carry masks, Emily. But every time you let yours slip, even for a moment, the consequences echo through every corner of our lives." His words cut through the facade of the evening's gaiety, leaving behind an echo of unresolved conflicts that shimmered between us. Lauren reached across the table and rested her hand lightly on mine, her touch a quiet plea for authenticity. It's exhausting, isn't it? Being caught between who we are expected to be and who we truly feel we want to be. It's like living with a constant internal battle, a conflict that never quite gives you peace. I could see that her admission was not directed solely at me, but at the shared human experience of grappling with our own inconsistencies. As the conversation deepened into the night, every exchanged word felt like a step toward understanding, while also amplifying the inevitable strain of confronting long-hidden truths. Dylan's fleeting glance as I subconsciously brushed my wrist did not go unnoticed. His eyes sharpened with both judgment and a strange empathetic concern. There was something raw in that moment, a reminder that beneath the layers of practiced sincerity lay scars that time had yet to heal. That evening, as the city buzzed quietly beneath us, I realized that our dialogue was more than a mere exchange of ideas. It was a mirror reflecting our innermost conflicts, a painful yet necessary confrontation with the hypocrisy we often allowed ourselves to nurture. Each revelation, each quiet sigh between the clinks of glassware, brought with it the sting of truth. And with every passing minute, I felt the fragile balance of my inner world teetering on the brink of transformation, an evolution that promised to be as relentless as it was inevitable. That evening, I was navigating the narrow, winding streets of the old quarter, the historic charm of weathered brick facades and softly glowing street lamps contrasting sharply with the heavy thoughts that weighed on me. The rhythmic tap of my footsteps was suddenly interrupted by the soft chime of my phone. In the dim light of a deserted alley, I hesitated and then checked my inbox. A new email, unfamiliar yet unnervingly personal. The sender was Kyle. I opened the message with a mix of trepidation and curiosity. In a few carefully chosen lines, Kyle revealed the hidden meaning behind the brooch I had discovered. A symbolic confession of his true feelings and, more provocatively, an invitation to embrace a change neither of us had dared to acknowledge openly until now. His words painted a picture of a man who had spent endless nights wrestling with shadows of regret and hope, desperate to free himself from the confines of routine and pretense. The email's message was simple yet devastating. It declared that the gift was not merely a token of affection but a pivotal sign of his longing to redefine his identity. In that moment, I felt both paralyzed and electrified by the clarity of his confession. I stood on the ancient stone steps of an old building, the cool evening air mingling with the sudden intensity of my emotions. My heart pounded as I tried to decipher the turbulent mix of betrayal, longing, and possibility that now swirled inside me. Every fiber of my being screamed that nothing would ever be the same again. The straightforward yet raw nature of Kyle's message forced me to confront the duality of my current existence, torn between the familiar comfort of the past and the unpredictable allure of a transformative future. Later that night, I sought refuge in a small tucked-away bookshop known for its quiet corners and character. Over a strong cup of coffee in a shadowed nook, I unexpectedly encountered Dylan. His eyes, already perceptive, carried a weight that spoke of unspoken revelations. As we exchanged hesitant greetings, he began to ask pointed, almost leading questions about recent events. His inquiries were gentle but probing, each one unraveling more of the tangled threads that Kyle's email had stirred within me. In that charged moment, as the scent of old paper and freshly ground coffee mingled in the background, the boundaries between past and present blurred. Dylan's questions and my conflicted silence merged into a silent acknowledgement that a new chapter was emerging, one where the ghosts of our shared past and the raw potential of our future were inextricably intertwined. Standing there, cradling the warmth of my coffee, I realized that fate had delivered a message of profound import. The delicate balance of my life was shifting, and every choice, every secret revelation, was guiding me toward an uncertain yet liberating transformation. The tension had been simmering for days, but nothing could have prepared me for the moment when it all burst into an uncontainable explosion. I had been in a rented hotel, trying to gather scattered thoughts in the quiet solitude of my room, when I carelessly left my phone on the table in the bustling hotel lounge during a quick coffee break. I never imagined that this small, seemingly insignificant mistake would catalyze a confrontation that would shatter the fragile shell I'd built around my heart. Later that evening, as the warm glow of streetlights filtered into the lounge and soft jazz murmured in the background, Dylan's unexpected arrival jolted me from my reverie. His eyes, usually calm and contemplative, burned with a sharp intensity one hadn't seen before. As he stepped closer, the charged atmosphere grew palpable. Without a word, he reached out, his finger brushing against the corner of the phone lying where I'd left it, a silent accusation that spoke volumes. Emily, he said, his voice trembling with barely contained hurt. I saw the messages. In that single sentence, every unspoken lie, every half-truth, and every suppressed emotion surged forward like a tidal wave. The lounge, with its muted decor and hushed conversations, transformed into a private arena for raw emotions. Before I could offer an explanation, Dylan's eyes glistened with anger and sorrow. How long have you been sharing fragments of your soul with him, Kyle? His question hung heavily in the air, laden with disbelief and betrayal. I could feel every heartbeat echoing the sound of my crumbling defenses as I fumbled for a rationale, a justification for the choices I never imagined would lead to this catastrophic moment. The dialogue that ensued was an unrelenting torrent of emotions. Dylan's words spilled out in rapid-fire accusations, each one piercing deeper than the last. Was I not enough? Is every stolen moment between you and him just another betrayal? His voice rose and fell in agonized waves, punctuating the silence between us as I struggled to find my own voice amid the chaos. Desperation racked me as I attempted to explain how each of those messages was born from a relentless internal struggle, a battle between the person I once was and the person I had become. I tried to tell him about the delicate interplay of memories and desires that had led me to seek solace in Kyle's words, each conversation an echo of my most hidden vulnerabilities. But no matter how I spoke, every sentence seemed to only widen the chasm of misunderstanding between us. As the heated exchange escalated into an emotionally charged debate of accusations and regrets, the realization struck me with searing clarity. Every small, intimate moment, the stolen kisses, the whispered confessions, even the silent gestures, had been harbingers of this inevitable collapse. In that storm of confrontation, truth and betrayal intermingled, leaving me exposed and defenseless. The private salon of that hotel lounge became a confessional chamber where both our broken hearts had to reckon with the irreversible consequences of our actions, and the shattering echoes of our past were finally laid bare. After the emotional maelstrom of that explosive confrontation, I found myself stepping out into the rain-soaked streets of New Orleans, feeling every drop as if it were washing away remnants of an old life I'd clung to too tightly. That night, as my feet carried me along slick sidewalks and under dim streetlights, I couldn't escape the heavy realization that truth isn't always liberating. In fact, sometimes it cuts deeper than any lie ever could. Each step was a confrontation with my inner turmoil, the raw conflict between the comfort of past certainties and the abrasive clarity of what I had become. I wandered aimlessly until I reached a familiar park bench tucked away beneath a sprawling live oak. There, unexpectedly, I bumped into Mara, an old friend whose candid demeanor always seemed to hold a mirror to my own soul. Emily, she greeted warmly, her voice laden with concern and unspoken understanding. You look like you've been through a storm. What's really going on? With the rain forming a gentle curtain around us, the park transformed into a confessional space, intimate and raw. Sitting down beside her, I found myself reluctantly opening up about the tangled web of my relationships, about Dylan's hurt and Kyle's seductive pull, about the long-forgotten dreams and deep-seated fears that had haunted me long before any of these dramatic events shook my world. I've realized, I confessed, that love, trust, and even betrayal aren't black and white. They're messy, layered, and often reveal more about our deepest selfishness than we'd ever admit out loud. Mara listened intently, nodding, and asked probing questions that forced me to re-examine every decision, every stolen moment that had led to this complicated chapter. As we talked, the stubborn truth became clearer. Relationships are less about fair exchanges of affection and more about the negotiation of personal boundaries. In our conversation, I articulated how both Dylan and Kyle had, in their own ways, exposed the fundamental truth about human connections. A truth that we are all driven by undeniable self-interest, even when cloaked in the guise of love or loyalty. Dylan's sudden vulnerability in our heated exchange had unmasked his fear of abandonment, while Kyle's reckless charm masked a desperation to reclaim a self-worth long suppressed by routine and regret. Our dialogue wasn't a debate, but a painful reckoning with the dualities of desire and disillusionment. Mara gently challenged me to consider that perhaps our capacity for selfishness was what made us all profoundly human. Maybe, she mused softly, the very edges of our egos are where our true truths lie, messy, unapologetic, and real. In that moment, I recognized that no matter how many facades we meticulously constructed, each act of betrayal, every unexpected confession, was an unvarnished testament to the imperfect, often contradictory nature of our hearts. Walking back into the chill of the rain, I carried with me a newfound clarity. The conversations with Dylan and Kyle were not just about lost trust. They were illuminating the raw, uncomfortable reality of who I was and who I wanted to become. In the interplay of vulnerability and self-interest, I saw a reflection of my own inherent contradictions. And as the storm subsided and the city lights shimmered in the aftermath, I understood that embracing our imperfections might be the only path towards finding a truth that, while unassailable, is also deeply human. In the pale light of early morning, I opened my eyes to the soft patter of rain on the window of my new apartment, a space that felt both foreign and full of possibility. The gentle rhythm of the raindrops acted as a reminder that change, inevitable and relentless, was no longer something to fear but rather an essential part of life's tapestry. In this quiet transitional hour, I understood that my past, filled with whispered confessions, heated confrontations, and moments of ecstatic betrayal, had paved the way for a clearer, albeit uncertain future. Yesterday's tumultuous journey with Dylan and Kyle, each emblematic of different facets of love and loss, had taught me that life isn't made up of black and white decisions. Instead, it is a continuous blend of passion, regret, and transformative insights. Dylan, with his cautious wisdom and hidden scars, symbolized the painful truths of forsaken promises and the bitterness of unspoken expectations. Kyle, on the other hand, embodied raw desire and an unfiltered need to explore the depths of one's vulnerabilities. Each had played a role in the unraveling of my former self and in the creation of a new, more resilient version of me. Now, in the solitude of my new home, I began to document these revelations in a fresh journal. The pages were filled with reflections on my journey, a mosaic of moments when I felt utterly lost and times when sparks of newfound purpose ignited my soul. I recalled the intensity of a single kiss that had shattered the boundaries I'd constructed, and the piercing honesty of an argument that left me feeling raw, yet strangely liberated. I understood that every tear, every laugh, and every confession was a necessary thread in the tapestry of my transformation. Stepping out onto the rain-dampened streets later that morning, I greeted the day with a cautious optimism that contrasted sharply with the uncertainty of my recent past. I met acquaintances who wore their own battles like subtle badges of honor, and in their nods and smiles I saw reflections of the resilience that comes with change. Even Dylan and Kyle, who had once symbolized diverging paths, seemed to have taken on new, almost complementary roles in the landscape of my life. Dylan's measured, almost conciliatory remarks in our final conversation, and Kyle's enigmatic but sincere glances at social gatherings, both served as gentle reminders that the people who impact our lives do so in multifaceted ways. As the day unfolded, I felt the weight of my previous dualities ease. In their place grew a quiet acceptance of all the contradictions that defined me. A woman who had loved deeply, erred profoundly, and emerged with a clearer sense of what it meant to seek the truth within herself. I realized that moving forward wasn't about choosing one version of love or loyalty over another. It was about understanding that every experience, regardless of its sweetness or bitterness, was an integral chapter in my ongoing story. Standing at the intersection of yesterday's memories and tomorrow's uncertainties, I embraced my new self, the one who had weathered life's storms, learned from every scar, and was now ready to craft a future defined not by the betrayals of the past, but by the courage to love, to live, and to continue evolving. The soft whispers of the rain and the gentle hum of the awakening city became the soundtrack of this rebirth. A promise that every end harbored a fresh beginning, and every step taken in truth was a step toward a life wholly, unapologetically my own.